Hello and welcome back to the Monsters of Monster Hunter Double Cross, where today we are playing with Savage Deviljho, the first variant monster I ever got introduced to. And still one of my favorites. It's actually only gotten more interesting since it was introduced, in my opinion. And let's go ahead and just get ourselves some insurance and Combiner Low. That Combiner Low is actually going to help me out because I don't have combo books in this set, and yet there are some combines I'm going to want to make. And I'm using Aerial Switch Axe just because it's what I'm most comfortable with, and Savage Joe is kind of dangerous if you're using something you're not familiar with. Yeah, his icon was first introduced in Portable Third, but Savage Joe did not exist in that game. The icon was just found via data mining. And let's go ahead and find out where this guy is. Okay, right outside. But Savage Joe didn't appear until 3U. And when the game first launched, there were no quests where you could choose to fight a Savage Joe. It was just that occasionally Savage Joe would invade. And there was like a very rare chance that it would be Savage Joe instead of regular Joe. So most players didn't get to see Savage Joe until they added a quest that specifically had him. And it was interesting because, like, back then, you only really... He didn't have his own specific icon in 3U for whatever reason. So you could only really tell that you were fighting a Savage Joe if, for whatever reason, it looked like it was enraged before you even saw it. And its skin would be, I guess, browner. More brown than green. And so it was difficult to tell apart from a regular Joe until it got mad. And like it would spawn in on a quest and you'd think, okay, it's just a Deviljho. We might as well fight that too. Get some Deviljho parts. And then you would anger it. And oh boy, is that not a regular Joe. I think the first time I found just a wild Savage Joe without trying to, I was doing a quest with 3 Diabloses, and Savage Joe happened to be the guest monster. And that was a quest, let me tell you. Because Savage Joe has got a thicker hide, so it bounces your attacks more often. It does more damage. It's got... I don't think it actually had more attacking options back then. But more damage, more durability, much more intimidating rage mode. Savage Joe was a thing. And now with this new visual on his rage, it's even more intimidating. But the fact that it gets those beady red eyes and that dragon aura around the face. Also, the eyes actually get eye trails in this game. That is cool. Yeah, Savage Joe is neat. Lore-wise, they are Deviljhos who have managed to live longer than most. Like, in terms of lore, Deviljhos only live for, like, 5 years or something like that. And these are Deviljhos that have managed to live way longer, and they've done so by eating other Deviljhos. And the dragon energy inside the other Deviljhos causes their own dragon energy to go wild, thus causing them to get that stuff they just had going on. But because of that, it also has like turbocharged their metabolism, so they have to eat even more often, and that's why Originally, people translated their Japanese name as something like Starving Deviljho. Because that's pretty much what they are. Couldn't get out of the way, but still did my damage. After 3U, they decided to add some more stuff to Savage Joe. Like, he was already really pin happy, which just goes for that whole they want to try and eat you type of deal. But then in 4U, they decided, you know what, that's not enough. Let's add another pin to this guy. So now, not only does he have his jump onto you and start biting pin, he's also got another pin that if he like knocks you onto your butt at any point, he can pick you up and start carrying you around in his mouth while continuing to attack other people. And I think he was the first and might still be the only monster that could actually... Well, no, Gore could as well. But he was definitely one of the first monsters who would actually attack other people while he had one person pinned. And that was just a really cool thing. Also, Savage Joe is faster than regular Joe and chains his attacks better, at least these days. And unlike regular Deviljho, he can follow up his little sweeping bites with that jump towards where he came from, just in case people are trying to run up behind him after he passes them. It's a neat concept. I appreciate Savage Joe. Honestly, I think he is... here's the new pin. So he knocks you over and then just kind of carries you around while continuing to do his stuff. Though in this case, he didn't attack anything. He was just using me as a pack lunch, I guess. Looks like he's going for that poison meat. That's good. Get some poison damage on there. Joe is really susceptible to poison. Yeah, to this day, I still think Savage Joe is probably like... Well, he's definitely among my favorite variant monsters. Though, I mean, I haven't fought that many. Like, Rusted Cushy isn't that great. Furious Rajang, I feel like, is less interesting than Savage Joe because it gains less over regular Rajang. Seriously? I dodged, or I jumped through it, but also right back into it. Great. But then we get the Gen 4 variants, like Chaotic Gormagala, Raging Bracky. Those are both good ones. But I think Savage Joe, like, almost stands toe-to-toe with those two. Not quite. Those two definitely do have a lot more going on for them than Savage Joe does. But, like, in terms of quality of concept and execution of concept, he doesn't lose to them. Like, he's everything he needs to be. And the fact that at first he was found just by accident, just roaming around, you would find a Deviljho who would get pissed and become this. That was just a fantastic surprise for players. Why am I sharpening? I didn't need sharpness, I needed stamina. Those are two completely different things. I mean, he's a little enraged right now, but I guess a pit trap's a pit trap. I really do enjoy monsters that can surprise you. Especially if surprising you was like their entire purpose. And it's not something completely out of left field, like if it's a surprise that's believable. Oh, I missed a lot of those towards the end. Like, for you to just be finding a random intruding Deviljho and for it to turn out to be Savage, that was great. I loved that. Whereas the other variant monsters all exist just in quests for themselves. None of them spontaneously exist alongside their regular forms. Like, you'll never be in a Bracky quest, or you'll never have a Bracky intrude and it turns out to be a Raging Bracky. You'll never just randomly have a Rusted Cushy. It'll always show you in the icon. You'll never find a Chaotic Gormagala when you're meaning to fight a regular one. Stuff like that. Like, the fact that Savage Joe could choose to fight you rather than the other way around just adds to his Savage Joe-ness. And it adds to the Deviljho-ness of him. Like, that's always been Deviljho's thing. It's the one monster that can choose to fight you regardless of what you want. So having Savage Joe be that but Savage is really cool. And also the fact that they added in 4 a unique carve to him was nice. The spattered hides. Because prior to Monster Hunter 4, Savage Joe's only unique thing was the Savage Blood, which was not available as a carve. You could get it from capture, but otherwise it was just, well, actually not even otherwise, it was just always post-quest rewards. You could never get any during the quest, and so it was a little tough to get. But adding a reason to not just capture Savage Joe was nice. I feel like he needed it, because a monster where the only reason you would fight it, or the only way to get anything that you would fight it for over a regular version of its species is to capture, is kind of lame. Though, incidentally, I think Chaotic Gormagala took that a little too far. Because Chaotic Gormagala, you actually cannot get its rarest item from capturing. You have to carve it. So basically it was the anti-Joe. I know that regular Joe is no longer able to be poisoned by 2 poison meats in one quest, at least in G rank in this game. I don't know about Savage Joe, so we're going to have to give it a shot. But unfortunately, he decided to ignore this meat. I swear, if he's finding himself a snack on the other side, I am going to be upset. Because, like, I took all this time to prepare this meal for him, and he ignores it to just go forage? Come on, man. That's just rude. Wait, in here? Joe can be in here? I was not aware of that. Okay, good. He's going for this meat. I guess he does want to be at least somewhat polite. Yeah, looks like he can only be poisoned once, at least in G rank. It used to be you could poison him twice with meats. He was the only monster in the entire game who could be poisoned more than once with just poison meats in one quest. So I've noticed, at least back in 4 and 4U, a lot, well, not 4, because he didn't have this move in 4. Back in 4U, a lot of people had trouble dodging that move of Joe's where he gets up on his tiptoes. It's actually a lot easier than it looks like. Like, it often feels like he just chooses a random side to do his breath from. But in reality, he'll always breathe from the side that, or from the same side that he first picked up a foot on. So like when he goes up on his tiptoes, pay attention to the foot he lifts first, because that's the side he's going to breathe on. So just dodge towards the other foot after the third step, and you'll get missed every time. So yeah, this time he stepped with his right foot first, so yeah, just go to the left foot, and you're good. Sorry, buddy, your neck isn't quite flexible enough for that. You can't just bite me off yourself. Okay, I guess you can cause me to miss in your struggling there. Really, though, when they were deciding how to differentiate Savage Joe from regular Joe, they definitely knew how to make it intimidating. Whereas, like, Golden Rajang versus regular Rajang, it's like nothing. Like, Furious Rajang versus regular Rajang, it's just, oh, when it's not raging, it's got the rage coloration, and when it is raging, it looks exactly like a raging regular Jang, just with its tail already broken. But Savage Joe, when he rages, you know it. And you can definitely tell that that ain't a normal Joe. That's a tired Joe is what that is. Okay, did he go there or did he go there? I don't know which way I'm supposed to go now. I don't think it's going to be this way. Yeah, definitely not. Okay, so he went back to where he came from, I believe. It's actually good that we're fighting this guy, because I needed 2 G-rank spattered hides for something or other. Forget what they were called in G-rank. Yep, that's a Joe, and it looks like he is not tired anymore, which means he probably got himself a snack. I'm going to paint him so that we don't lose him again. Provided I can actually get the paint to stick. There we go. Seems they've softened Savage Joe up a little bit, at least since 3U, which is where I fought him the most. Because, again, you could only get his unique thing by capturing him, and you couldn't really get that many per quest. So I ended up having to fight him quite a lot. But at least back then, you needed Purple Sharp to not bounce on his belly, or at least his underside. And it seems that I wasn't bouncing with white earlier. So yeah, they softened him up a bit. I guess that's because there was no purple in Gen. So since they still had Savage Joe, they couldn't require purple to have you not bounce. So they're like, okay, let's just make it white. And now purple is a thing, and it's still white that you need, I guess. Apsaros, you really need to learn self-preservation. And hey, it's dead. And there's our sub. Just checking whether the sub was break the face or break everything. And it was just the face. Okay. You know, this isn't going to help me at all. Especially not because I got pinned for having done it. Way to break the rock behind you. Yeah, that meat's not going to help me at all, but it might at least just hold him still for a little while. There's worse things than that. Also, it'll keep him from doing his defense down drool, which is good. I don't like defense down. It's not one of my favorite things to have happen. Another neat thing about Savage Joe is how his weaknesses change relative to regular Joe. Regular Joe, his face is pretty much always weak, but when he's raging, his belly gets weaker. Whereas Savage Joe, his belly is ordinarily weaker, but his face becomes very weak when he's raging. Though it also becomes immune to elements because of the Dragon Aura. But I'm not using an element, so I don't really care about that. I should probably start using my traps, huh? But he's raging, so I shouldn't. Ow. Got a little lucky not taking a hit there. Now we're ready. Now we know exactly where he's going. Looks like it's time for another one of these. Dash juices are very nice to have when you're playing aerial style. Ow. It's a good thing I flinched him there, because otherwise I'm sure his breath would have carried right around just to hit me again. Gotta say, I just had a little bit of a scare. Saw the Genprey running along that path over there, and they were kind of in the water, or at least near enough to it, that all I saw was some, like, brownish shapes going along near the surface of the water. I was thinking, oh, is there a Plesioth here? Because it would suck if a Plesioth spawned in on this quest. Also, it would suck if this guy managed to score the kill right now. Let's try and prevent him from doing that. Okay, he's preventing himself well enough. There we go. Now we're fine. Okay, waste of a knockdown, but I'll take it. Oh, and he left rage as I was getting on. Lame. I would much rather he be enraged for the full duration so that I could get him with my challenger when he's down. Because challenger. I love it. Thankfully, the roar post-mount is a fake. But then he enrages, which comes with a real roar. Which means it's going to be longer yet before we use our traps. It's always a little scary when he does that while raging, because he's got very long reach with it. But then again, his damage output isn't huge. Oops, I wasn't paying attention to his legs. Kind of saddens me that there's no Hyper Savage Joe. Just because I feel like Hyper Joe is a more difficult fight than Savage Joe just because of its damage output. Whereas if Hyper Joe, or if Hyper Savage Joe had existed, then that would easily be the hardest Joe. Like even Apex Joe, when it was Apex, it stole Savage Joe's moves. That was kind of the whole point. I pressed A and B together accidentally. But yeah, like, Apex Joe, yeah, it stole Savage Joe's moves, because they knew that regular Joe wasn't intimidating or difficult enough. Like, just taking regular Joe and making it more durable didn't accomplish much. But taking regular Joe, giving it Savage Joe's moves and making it more durable, that makes for a more intimidating beast. And then at high levels, Apex Joe got a couple new moves as well, but, or at least new effects on old moves. But it wasn't quite as big. So bitey. Stop being so bitey. I know you're hungry, but come on, man. Don't see me biting you, and I'm hungry right now. Okay. I guess that's one way to get him into the trap. A lot of people like to lure him with meat. I guess I just took the place of the meat. Thankfully, shock traps do last a good while on him when he's tired. Barely avoided that. Ow. I really ought to get rid of my defense down. It's not good for me. Like, with it, I have 719 defense. Without it, I have 899. Yeah, I'd much rather not lose 20% of my defense. If it's all the same. And that's a limp. I would capture him. But as I said earlier, I do need spattered hides, or whatever the G-rank equivalent is, so we're gonna kill him. Also, what did I get from the tail? I don't think I paid attention. And if I did, I don't think I remembered. Okay, we got a scale and a tail. That's not great. And apparently he sleeps in here. Unfortunately, his size and the way he gets up makes it so that I can't just unleash a full burst on him while he's getting up. Unlike many monsters. Ow. Would have had to dodge a little earlier if I wanted to dodge through that. I'm usually pretty good about dodging through Joe's sweeping breath, but sometimes I just don't got it, and other times I just don't have the opportunity. Ow. Probably didn't need to dive, but it is safer. Now that he's tired, let's just drop this right on under him. We might be able to kill him right there. Yep. That was actually a little quicker than I expected. And unfortunately, once a Savage Joe dies, it's indistinguishable from regular Joe. Like, maybe it's a less vibrant green. I don't really recall. But if there's anything that distinguishes them, it's that. So yeah, at least now we can take a better look at how stretchy the back texture is. And how, like, nothing the texture on the spikes is. Though the, like, red stuff in there, that's kind of okay. Yeah, like, the mouth is pretty well done. And all the teeth and stuff around it. Like, it's a well done monster. And look at those eyebrows. Yeah, Savage Joe's neat. I enjoy that it exists and has been around since it started existing. Both Joe and Savage Joe have yet to miss a game since they were introduced. And hey, look, I got the 2 I needed plus 2 extras. That's nice. Hello, Deviljho Crook. I've got a few of those, as you saw. And that's going to be it for this episode. Join us next time when we fight one of my favorite Brute Wyverns, Uragon. See you then, friends.